So here is another game of good questions, less bad questions. So what we've got are some typical questions that people ask, and some of these are good and some of these are bad. So I'll show you the results now. Red is bad and green is good and yellow is kind of okay. So Sandras, could you tell us why the top ones are bad typically?
Great. So the top ones, I think, has been said. Right? If you ask somebody, do you think this is a good idea? For the most part, they say, yeah. And then even the way people answer sometimes, you have to listen closely to know that that yeah is not a yeah. You're like, yeah, you know, or yeah, but they always say yes, one form, in a form or another. And so that doesn't give you much. Then would you buy a product which did this? Of course, right? Would I buy a Lamborghini? Of course I would. But would I really do it when you bring it? Like, oh, maybe I can't afford it, or I don't need it, or any of that. Then how much would you pay for X? Again, with that, it's when it's hypothetical, people can just throw answers, and it might be something that they don't really need. And then what would your dream product do? This is future. So for the future, people will say wonderful things. We all have good intentions. Next year, we're going to start exercising. Next year, we'll eat vegetables and drink more water, right? Next year, we'll save more. So if you say, if I give you an app that help you do these things in the future, the answer will be like, yeah, of course. I'll do this and do that, and just become super hypothetical. And with that, you can create anything, but in reality, it doesn't solve. So you want to look more for the behavior and something in the past, because that shows you what people really do as opposed to what they plan to do. Plans are very different from what people do. And what are the implications of that? That one now is a good question, because it helps you understand like the underlying issues. And with those, you could figure out whether your solution is actually the right one, or if you find out why people do what they do, you can switch what you're trying to produce in order to solve that. And then take me through the last time that happened. That one is very good because it reveals what somebody was really doing. It helps you understand that whether your type of solution would work in that moment. So if they tell you, oh, this happened when I was driving in the rain, then you realize your solution cannot take water, for instance, then you realize, okay, this wouldn't work. But again, when you're asking questions at the beginning, you just want to learn as much as possible, but learn from what people do, not what they plan to do.
Yeah. And asking, if they say yes, they use iPads, and you say, okay, when was the last time you used your iPad? What were you doing? And they can't remember. Well, they probably don't use it really, and you can't rely on them. So you need to find people who actually use it and who can take you through exactly what they did, why they did it, why it was fun, why it was exciting, what irritated them, why the browser isn't working because of this and that. So you're looking for interesting detail, and so you can figure out the opportunities. Yeah. Cool. That was the first set of bad questions, and then we've got one more which we'll do quite quickly, which are also really good. All these questions are quite good, and the two questions at the top, what else have you tried and how are you dealing with it now, are really key for understanding problems. If people have not tried to solve the problem already and they're just dealing with the problem, it's probably not a strong problem for you to build something and expect them to pay for it. However, if they're trying something else and what they're trying is really poor, giving them pain, but it's the only thing they have to solve their issue, then they'll be really motivated to go for your product. So you don't want people who have weak problems, because they won't find a solution. They won't Google your solution. If the problem's weak, they can just leave it in the background. So that's why those two are really key. And then there's this last one from the bottom, who else should I talk to? We know that finding customers to interview is sometimes quite hard, but they may know people who are quite similar to them who would be good people for you to speak to. So why not ask the customers towards the end if there's anyone else they can introduce you to or anyone else you could talk to. Getting their commitment by introductions or even commitment for further conversations shows that they actually cared about what your conversation was and that you can rely on them and they're engaged. So those are the good questions. So